At Christmas, she stood in front of a 12 million car and felt like she finally mattered. 3 minutes later, he handed her a pink plastic pig and reminded everyone watching what he really thought she was worth. The snow on the Worthington estate hadn't melted, not even a little. That morning, it layered the stone driveway like powdered glass, glinting softly beneath the cold blue sky. Valena Price stood quietly, wrapped in a caramel fur coat, her breath visible in the air. And in front of her, parked dead center under the archway of pine-lit columns, was the car. A custom Phantom Rolls-Royce, jet black, hand-stitched cream interior, gold emblem. Exactly the one she'd pointed out in a magazine nearly 2 years ago. She'd never mentioned it again. But he remembered. Luca Worthington, oil heir, boardroom killer, face of Worthington Energy, had remembered. Or at least, someone on his team had. Still, the car sat right there, with her name on the tag, literally, to Valena, printed in clean white font on the red satin ribbon that wrapped around the hood like a crown. Her fingers grazed the polished surface. The chill of the metal met her fingertips, but she didn't pull away. 3 years. 3 full years. No title, no proposal. No invites to corporate events, or even his family's wine estate in the south of France. But this was public. 2 chefs, a gardener, the assistant housekeeper, and the entire Worthington estate staff stood nearby with gift envelopes in hand, waiting for their end-of-year bonuses. And he was doing this in front of them. Her eyes flicked to Luca. He was standing tall in a charcoal overcoat, not a hair out of place, sipping an espresso like the snow didn't touch him. His lips curved faintly, like he was proud, or amused, or both. "You like it?" he asked casually, nodding toward the rolls. Valena nodded once, trying not to let the emotion rise too fast. It's beautiful. Good." He stepped closer. "Because I wanted you to feel like you'd earned something. For your patience." Patience. It wasn't the word she hoped to hear, but she smiled, just barely. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out something else. Small, light pink, no wrapping, no grace, just a cheap plastic box. He handed it to her without flinching. "Here, open it," Luca said. Valena's gloved fingers hesitated. She could feel the eyes of the staff nearby, though none of them dared meet her gaze directly. She opened it. Inside sat a small plastic pig, a piggy bank, the kind you'd find at a dollar store checkout. Its eyes were painted unevenly. The slot for coins was crooked. Before she could speak, Luca sipped his espresso again and said, "Thought maybe it was time you saved something of your own." The words landed like stones. He didn't whisper it. He didn't smirk. He said it plainly, smoothly, like it was a compliment wrapped in silk. But it wasn't. It was a jab, a correction, a public reminder of her place. Something between her ribs went cold. The silence around them broke, not with words, but with the faint sound of breathy chuckles. Someone, maybe one of the chefs, tried to cover their laugh with a cough, but it had already slipped out, and that was enough. Valena looked down at the pig in her hands. She felt the tension in her shoulders rise. Her mouth stayed closed. Her lashes didn't even blink, because if she blinked, the tears might come. She turned slowly toward the car. The gift that once shimmered now stood behind her like a joke with chrome rims. She didn't ask for a car. She didn't beg for luxury. She had stayed, quietly, faithfully, even when she knew his mother didn't acknowledge her name. Even when holiday dinners came and went with no invitation, she played her role. Always poised, always grateful, always in heels. And now, a pig. She tightened her grip on the small plastic insult and nodded once, quietly. Not to him, not to the staff, to herself. Then she stepped forward. "Thank you for the gifts," she said, her voice calm. Her gaze never reached Luca's again. "I won't be needing the car." Before he could respond, she turned, walked through the estate foyer, past the butler, down the hall, and out the other side. No heels clicking, no crying, just snow beneath her boots and a plastic pig in her coat pocket. She didn't ask for the driver. She didn't wait for her things. She left before Christmas dinner was served. Billionaire didn't go to her apartment in the city. She went somewhere older, quieter, where dignity once tasted like powdered cocoa and a $12 hourly wage. She went back to the diner. The bell over the diner door gave its familiar chime as Billionaire stepped in, the cold air curling behind her heels before the door shut gently. Inside, the warmth hit instantly, not just from the heating, but from something deeper, the scent of buttered grits, grilled rye, and hot syrup that never left the place no matter the hour. It was quiet, past breakfast rush, before the lunch crowd, just two booths filled, one with a couple sipping coffee in silence, and one farther in the back where a man sat alone with a worn leather notebook and a half-eaten slice of pecan pie. Billionaire stepped up to the counter like muscle memory had carried her. She eased onto the red vinyl stool, pulled her gloves off finger by finger, and folded her hands in her lap. "Hot cocoa?" a voice asked from behind the counter. She looked up. Lorna stood there, wiping her hands on a faded towel. Her hair was the same deep auburn as before, now tied back with a Christmas clip. Her apron had a stain over the O, just like always. Billionaire nodded. "Haven't seen you since you wore heels behind that counter," Lorna said, already reaching for the cocoa tin. "I'm still wearing heels," Billionaire murmured. "Yeah, but now you don't look like you're running to catch a late bus." Billionaire smiled. It didn't reach far, but it was real. Lorna poured the milk into the steel pitcher and let it steam. The hiss filled the space between them. Billionaire placed her clutch on the counter, set the small pink pig beside it. Lorna looked at it, didn't ask. The cocoa came in a chipped white mug, the same kind they used when Billionaire used to work there 3 years ago. Lorna added whipped cream without asking, sprinkled cinnamon on top. Billionaire took a sip, closed her eyes for a second longer than usual. It didn't fix anything, but it held her steady. "How long you staying?" Lorna asked gently. Billionaire didn't answer right away. She glanced outside, the snow still falling, the sky growing dim even though it wasn't yet 4. "I don't know," she said. "No pressure. Just saying. We still got the coat hook with your name on it." Billionaire's throat tightened. She took another sip. At the back booth, the man shifted slightly. He looked over, not staring, just noticing. His name was Conrad Vale, widowed, retired, former founder of a logistics tech company no one ever knew existed until he sold it to a major player for over $200 million. Most days, he walked to this diner from the modest brownstone he kept 3 blocks away, wore a watch without a brand name, spoke only when spoken to. But he watched people, not in judgment, in awareness. He had seen Billionaire before, years ago, when she ran the floor on weekends with a customer smile that never touched her eyes. And now, she was back, dressed in money, hair slicked back, coat too fine for this place, lips painted like someone who'd forgotten how to eat messy. But her eyes were glassy. Her hand shook when she reached for the napkin. She used it, dabbed at her lips, not to fix smudged lipstick, but to keep it neat, controlled. She blinked longer than she needed to. Conrad watched her for a moment, then turned back to his notebook, scribbled something, flagged the waitress gently. When he left, he paid in cash. But he left the receipt tucked under the mug she hadn't noticed was still on the counter from earlier. Lorna picked it up, read the short note written on it. She didn't say anything, just slid it across the counter. Billionaire took it. In quiet, clean cursive it read, "They mock people who earn differently. Doesn't mean you earned less." No name, no contact, just that. She stared at the words. Something stirred, not revenge, not ego, just a faint pulse of clarity beneath the bruising silence of the day. She folded the note, tucked it into her coat pocket beside the pig. The two didn't belong together, but right now, they did. Billionaire stood slowly, picked up her clutch, left a 20 on the counter. "Let me know if you're staying," Lorna said again, softer now. "I'll keep a key in the drawer, for the back unit." Billionaire nodded. Outside, the wind had calmed. The car she didn't take still sat miles away. So did the estate, and the man. But they felt distant now, like someone else's chapter. As she walked, her heels clicked slower than before. By the time she turned the corner, she didn't hear them at all. But she wasn't walking toward a cab, not yet. Her feet led her down side streets that still smelled like yesterday, pizza shops, nail salons, old corner stores with glowing signs that flickered for attention. She hadn't passed through here in almost 2 years. She took out her phone. No messages from Luca, not even a "where are you?" She opened her savings account app. The number was smaller than she remembered, but it was hers. Every dollar of it, hers. She sat on a park bench beside a rusting swing set and watched a mother push a toddler slowly back and forth. Nobody looked at her. Nobody cared. It felt peaceful. She reached into her bag, took out the pig. She stared at it, the cheap, ridiculous symbol of how little she was valued. But what if that pig became something else? Velena ran a fingertip across its surface. She thought of every woman she'd worked with over the years who had quietly swallowed insults to stay close to something they were building, whether love or legacy or just survival. She remembered how she used to scribble product ideas on napkins between orders. She remembered what it felt like to own nothing, not even the scent on her borrowed coat. The pig wasn't an insult anymore. It was fuel. Velena stood, pocketed it again. By the time she reached the train stop, she'd made 3 notes on her phone. She didn't know how. She didn't know when. But something had shifted. She would not be a memory in someone else's mansion. She'd be a foundation in her own world, quiet, graceful, and unshakable. She used to count heat by the way her breath fogged the window. Velena remembered that winter, the one where the radiator in their second-floor apartment had gone out for a week. Her mom boiled pots of water on the stove just to add warmth to the room. Every night, she'd pile socks on Velena's feet and say, "We don't freeze, we adapt." Velena didn't grow up poor in a poetic way. It wasn't soft or character-building like people in glass houses like to say. It was shame, tight and constant. It was walking home in shoes too thin. It was holding back tears in class when a teacher said, "Didn't your mom sign the permission slip?" No, she didn't. Because she was working an overnight shift, and Velena didn't want to bother her with papers that cost money to participate in. By the time she was 13, Velena had learned 3 things. Those lessons stayed long after the apartment, after the city bus routes. After the second-hand prom dress, she pressed and pinned herself. She didn't need saving. She needed air. And that's why, when she turned 18, she left home before sunrise and never returned for more than a weekend. Her mother never begged her to stay. She only said, "If you go, go for something real, not shiny." Back then, Velena didn't know the difference. She got her first front desk job at 19 in a small boutique hotel that overlooked the east side of the city, not the fancy part, but the kind with water views blocked by warehouses. She memorized the guests' names, smiled like she didn't care when the ones in silk coats ignored her, smiled the same when the manager slid his gaze down her chest and called her "darlin'." On Saturdays, she modeled, not for glossy runways or global brands, but for catalog shoots, hair tutorials, local boutiques that needed diversity on the website. She smiled there too, perfectly, tilted chin, eyes softened. She made enough to afford groceries without couponing, enough to keep her shoes from cracking, enough to take night classes and study brand marketing, enough to pretend she was climbing, but she wasn't. She was waiting for something to shift. And on one of those nights, where she wore a loaned designer dress with safety pins hidden in the side seams, she walked into the gallery that would change everything. She wasn't on the invite list. Her friend worked PR and had an extra pass. The event was crawling with oil heirs, art dealers, and people who threw the word emerging around like it made them generous. Velena didn't expect anyone to notice her, but he did. Luca Worthington had walked in late, as usual, trailed by 2 men, in sharp navy suits, and 1 woman, who looked like she breathed ice. Velena had been studying a black and white photograph on the wall, something abstract, angled, unreadable. She hadn't seen him approach. "You like that one?" he asked. She turned. Tall, controlled, more expensive than anyone in the room. "I don't know what it means," she said plainly. "That's why it sells," he replied, sipping his drink. She didn't laugh, didn't offer anything back. And that, maybe that, is why he lingered. He asked her name. She gave it. He asked what she did. She told the truth. He raised a brow. "I like women who aren't impressed easily." She smiled. "I like men who don't pretend they know more than they do." He smiled too. By the end of the week, she was in his penthouse. But it wasn't love. Not even in the first 6 months. It was intrigue, convenience, mutual benefit. Luca offered access, travel, dinners, clothes, spaces most women from her block couldn't imagine. She offered composure, charm, silence when it mattered. Velena never asked to be taken to his board meetings. She never asked about the women he stood next to in headlines. She believed if she stayed good, quiet, elegant, low risk, he'd see her as something more than temporary. Because that's what the world teaches girls like her. Behave, and you'll be rewarded. What no one tells you is that proximity to power doesn't mean you have any, not unless you take it. But Velena hadn't taken anything. Not yet. The holidays were the worst. He never spent them fully with her. There was always a reason. His mother's expectations, the press, the family's annual closed-door retreat in Aspen. She never made a scene. Last year, he bought her a diamond bracelet. The year before, it was a hand-painted clutch from Paris. She wore the gifts like badges. This year, she told herself, would be different. He'd promised to clear the morning for her. He'd whispered, "I want you to feel like you've earned your place here." And for a moment, she believed him. The Rolls-Royce had felt like proof, a gesture, something public. But then came the pig, and everything, every private dinner, every whispered apology, every "you're different," collapsed into a single truth. She was never going to be a headline. She was never going to meet his mother. She was never going to be written into his future, only used in his present. The pig wasn't a joke. It was a signal. Stay where I put you. And Velena? She never did like being boxed in. She sat on the edge of her old bed that night, in the room above the diner, where Lorna had let her stay during the worst of her in-between years. Same beige lamp. Same warped mirror with a crack in the bottom corner. Velena stared at herself for a long time. Hair still perfect. Eyes tired. She took off the coat, hung it, unclipped her earrings, and then she did something she hadn't done in months. She cried, not because she was heartbroken, because she was angry, not at Luca, at herself, for believing a man like him would ever hand her a place at his table when he could toss her the crumbs and watch her call it a feast. She wiped her face, took a deep breath, pulled the napkin from her pocket. The note Conrad had left was still there. They mock people who earn differently. Doesn't mean you earned less. She read it twice, then folded it neatly. She set it beside the pig on the dresser, and as she turned off the lamp, she whispered to no one, "You gave me exactly what I needed." Morning came slow, the kind of morning where the sun didn't so much rise as it quietly showed up behind clouds, dull and cold. Velena didn't rush to the window. She didn't check her phone. She didn't even reach for her lipstick. She just sat in the stillness. The room above the diner had thin walls and a leaky faucet, but it was hers. Lorna had left a fresh towel by the door. A small kindness, no fanfare, no pity. Downstairs, the faint clatter of plates and silverware told her the morning crowd had arrived. Velena brushed her hair into a low knot. No makeup, just clear balm on her lips. For the first time in years, she let herself look plain, uncurated, real. She stepped down into the diner quietly. The regulars were already at their booths. The counter was half full. No one looked up. She liked it that way. Lorna caught her eye. "You hungry or just hiding?" Velena gave a small smile. "Both." Lorna pointed to a corner booth. "Sit, I'll bring your usual," or what used to be your usual. Velena sat. She didn't expect anyone to notice her. And no one did. That anonymity felt like oxygen. 2 booths down, someone was talking about a new shopping plaza being built near the marina. Another couple was arguing about how to split a phone bill. It was a different world. And yet, more her than any rooftop brunch she'd ever attended in Luca's circle. When Lorna set down the plate, eggs, toast, hot grits, she paused. I heard what happened. Someone from the Worthington estate came in last week asking if you ever worked here. Velena froze, didn't say much, just tried to confirm if you were once a waitress here. Lorna gave a shrug. I didn't confirm anything. Velena stared down at her plate. They were checking to make sure I remembered where I came from. They forget we don't need reminding. Silence settled. Then Lorna leaned closer. Velena, what are you going to do now? Velena stirred her grits slowly. I'm done watching people build kingdoms off my silence. Lorna studied her. You mean him? I mean all of them, Velena said softly. Every boss that smirked when she said she couldn't stay late without pay. Every agent that tried to pay her less for urban appeal. Every man who thought a good dress and quiet smile meant she could be bought, then stored. She wasn't trash. She wasn't decoration. And she wasn't done. I have ideas, she said finally. Things I used to scribble between orders. I never had the time. Or the clarity. And now? Velena looked up, her eyes steady. Now I have both. Lorna nodded slowly. You ever need help, people, suppliers, someone to test your idea? No, folks. Quiet folks. Real folks. Velena didn't respond with thanks. She said, I might take you up on that. And she meant it, because something in her was waking up. That afternoon she went to a print shop she used to pass on the way home from her night classes. The owner still remembered her. She printed 5 sheets, mock-up logo, brand sketches, one rough design for packaging. She titled it Noir Nest, a lifestyle line for women like her, women who had built elegance out of limits, who didn't grow up walking through glass doors but learned to open them anyway. Simple design, no screaming logos, just grace. Products that didn't need to prove they were expensive to be valuable. She taped one of the logo sheets above her borrowed desk in the small unit behind the diner. It wasn't even a real desk, just a fold-out table with a lamp and her old laptop, but it was a beginning. She applied for a seller's license that night, then made a list of 10 things she needed. 1. A domain name. 2. Packaging source. 3. Logo refinement. 4. 3 base products. 5. Shipping strategy. 6. Photography. 7. Quiet investors. 8. Beta testers. 9. Legal registration. Dissect. Herself, focused. She didn't need a studio. She needed belief. The next morning, the envelope arrived. She found it tucked under the front door of the diner. No stamp, no return address. Just her name, Velena. Inside was a check. No note. No sender. Just 5 figures and a signature that had been reduced to a minimalist squiggle. She knew it wasn't Luca. The name on the check read, Vale Holdings. She folded the check and pressed it against her chest. Not for the money, but for what it represented. Quiet belief. Not the kind that demanded something in return. The kind that said, I see what you're building. Keep going. She placed the check in an envelope and slid it into the notebook with her sketches. Later that night, she sat at the diner again. At the booth this time, sipping cocoa, laptop open, hands moving with quiet urgency. Conrad came in. Didn't sit near her. Didn't speak. He just gave her a nod from across the room. She nodded back. No drama. No fanfare. Just 2 people who'd seen each other fully and respected the work happening in silence. Have you ever had someone quietly believe in you when the world didn't? Tell us in the comments. And if you've ever rebuilt from rock bottom, like this video, share it with someone who needs to know their silence holds strength. Subscribe for more stories where grace rises quietly and never bows twice. The next morning, Velena didn't start with her phone or her email. She started with her hands. Her fingers moved slowly across the smooth craft paper samples she'd picked up from a local supplier Lorna referred her to. Neutral tones, clean lines, nothing flashy. Noir Nest wasn't going to scream. It was going to stand still. And stillness, when earned, could silence rooms louder than applause. She folded one sheet neatly over an empty box, taped the edge, studied it from every angle. Her body leaned forward like she used to during late-night shifts, tweaking table settings to perfection before the floor manager walked through. Only now, there was no manager, no Luca, no one to please, just her and the small fire inside that wouldn't go out. Her laptop dinged. She checked. One new order. One. But her heart reacted like it was 1,000. She clicked it open. A small home goods shop in New Jersey had seen her pre-launch ad. They wanted a test shipment of 10 units, candle jars wrapped in her minimalist packaging with a new black wax stamp logo. They hadn't asked for a discount or proof of experience. They said her brand felt trustworthy. She sat still for a long moment, one hand over her lips, like holding in something sacred. This was what the pig bank never predicted. Not pity, not rage, precision. That afternoon, she stepped into the diner, not as a worker or guest, but as someone who had returned to where she remembered who she was. Lorna glanced at her hands, calloused slightly now from cutting and folding packaging, and smiled. "You got that builder's look," she said, pouring cocoa. "What kind of look is that?" "The kind that says you stopped asking and started doing." Velena took the mug, warm and steady. "Then I'm in the right place." She sat at her usual booth, laptop open, files stacked beside her, a few sticky notes tucked under the edge of a salt shaker. The napkin from that first night, Conrad's note, rested quietly between her hands. It had become her touchstone, her reminder that dignity doesn't beg, it walks, even when it's alone. She didn't notice him at first, but she felt it, a stillness behind her, familiar but not intrusive. Conrad stood a few feet away, holding his usual mug of black coffee, coat unzipped, no tie. He looked at the table, then at her. She offered a nod. "May I?" he asked. She nodded again. "Of course." He sat opposite her, quiet, comfortable. "You remember every person you invest in like this?" she asked, voice low. "I don't invest in people," he replied. "I place bets on clarity." She studied him. "And you think I'm clear?" "I think most people drown in noise. You walked out of a mansion and came here." He paused. "That's clear enough." Velena tilted her head. "Why help me at all?" He took a sip, set his cup down gently. "Because your silence wasn't submission. It was survival. And because the people who mock quiet power usually regret it later." She didn't respond right away, because he wasn't flattering her, or trying to take credit. He was speaking truth, and she hadn't heard that in a long time. They spoke for 42 minutes, not about her product, not about Luca, not about revenge. They talked about work ethic, about how people wear pressure like perfume and forget it never covers the truth, about her mother, and how Velena once cleaned motel rooms before her front desk shift just to afford toothpaste, about how dignity costs more than money, and how people who never paid it don't understand its worth. By the time the conversation wound down, she felt something surprising. Safe, not dependent, not owed, just seen. As she gathered her things, Conrad reached into his coat pocket. He pulled out a small brown envelope, slid it across the table. Velena hesitated. "What is it?" "Not money," he said. "An address." She opened it. Inside, a contact card for a local packaging fulfillment center, reputable, discreet, black-owned. "Heard they're good," he said. "They work with small volume clients. Won't treat you like you're playing dress-up in business." She nodded slowly. "Thank you," she said softly. "You don't owe me gratitude," he replied. "Just keep walking forward. Don't stop to explain it to people who won't get it anyway." She pressed the card between her fingers. It wasn't validation, it was confirmation. She was already on the right track. By that evening, Velena had built a checklist that spanned 2 pages. She didn't rest. She didn't scroll. She didn't check Luca's socials or wonder if he'd noticed she never took the car. She just worked. The plastic pig now sat on her desk like a sentry, not a memory of shame, but a spark. Because everything she'd been mocked for, that's what she was building from. Velena worked through the night. The glow from her laptop screen lit the small back unit like a city light through fog. Her notebook was open beside her, filled with sketches, packaging mock-ups, color palette ideas, and quotes she'd scribbled when she couldn't sleep. The pig bank sat at the edge of the table, looking almost out of place next to swatch samples and supplier invoices. She didn't touch it. But she didn't move it either. There was something oddly grounding about it, a reminder not of what she was given, but of what she was no longer accepting. She sipped lukewarm cocoa and reviewed a new inquiry. A micro-influencer, someone she'd never heard of, had messaged to ask if she offered PR packages. Velena smiled. It wasn't fame, not even close, but it meant the name Noir Nest was starting to move. Her logo sat centered on the first draft of her homepage, a small hand-drawn nest with thin gold lines running through it. No tagline, no punchline, just the brand name. And beneath it, in tiny type, home isn't a place. It's how you carry yourself. She wasn't building a business for attention. She was building it for women who knew what it meant to stand up without noise. Women who had been used, overlooked, mocked, but never broken. The market didn't make room for that kind of woman. So Velena was building the room herself. By sunrise, she had assembled 3 product sets, all sourced, all costed, all aligned. One featured soft charcoal candles with raw linen labeling and hand-wrapped boxes, no stickers, no plastic seals. The second was a curated writing kit, a nod to the receipt note that started all of this. Inside, uncoated paper, a real pen, not a disposable one, and a folded card that read, "Write your own terms." The third, her boldest, a restoration box, minimal skincare essentials wrapped in canvas pouches with a single insert card. The card didn't promise miracles. It said, "This won't fix everything." But neither did hiding. Velena leaned back and stared at the designs on screen. Her hands shook, not from fear, from drive, from knowing she wasn't guessing anymore. Later that afternoon, she walked into the packaging center Conrad had referred her to. The warehouse looked plain from the outside, grey brick, 2 bay doors, one metal sign that simply read, "Juno Fulfillment." Inside, it was clean, organized, professional. A tall woman in jeans and a black crewneck shirt stood behind the main counter, arms crossed, reading a clipboard. She looked up. "Help you." Velena stepped forward. "I was given this address. Said you might be willing to work with small volume brands." The woman set the clipboard down. "Depends on the brand." Velena didn't flinch. She pulled a folder from her tote, slid it across. Inside were product mock-ups, budget outlines, projected growth estimates, and a 1-page vision statement handwritten in clean, centered print. The woman opened it, scanned. She said nothing for a long moment. Then she reached into her desk drawer and pulled out a plain envelope. "This is our basic contract. No guarantees, just the next step." Velena took it. The woman paused. "You from here?" Velena nodded. "Didn't think so. You talk like you've been somewhere else, but you still walk like this city made your bones." That sat with her longer than expected, because it was true. By week's end, Velena had her packaging locked in. She had 2 small batch suppliers on retainer, both women-led, both willing to invoice monthly. She sold her last designer clutch from the Luca years, got double for it because of the brand. The irony wasn't lost on her. She used the money to fund her first order run, 150 units across all 3 product types. Her apartment lease ended that week. She didn't renew it. There was no need. She stayed in the back unit above the diner. Simple, quiet, paid in full. That Saturday, she sat across from Conrad again. Same booth, same seat. He ordered the same thing, black coffee, slice of pecan pie, no small talk unless invited. She updated him without framing it as an update. He listened without interrupting. At the end, he said one sentence. "You don't need traction to be real." Velena blinked. "Sorry." He leaned forward slightly. "You talk like you're still waiting for someone to validate the road you're on. But let me be clear, your path doesn't get more real just because someone else says it is." She nodded. It hit deeper than she expected. She realized how much of her self-worth still waited for someone else to approve the blueprint. Luca had trained her in that without words. But Conrad, he was untraining her. Without praise, without performance, just presence. She tucked that lesson quietly in her chest, like armor. By Monday, Noir Nest launched in soft beta. No press, no parties. Just a quiet link on a clean website and a mailing list Lorna helped her build from diner regulars, old clients, and local stylists who remembered how Velena carried herself even when her name wasn't known. The orders were small, but steady, and each time one came in, she said nothing. She just packed it carefully, lit one of the candles beside her workstation and whispered, "You're not buying a product, you're buying your power back." Because that's what Noir Nest was, a mirror. For women who'd been handed plastic pigs and still stood. One night, as she was closing her laptop, Lorna knocked on the unit door. She stepped in, holding a small bag. "Guy left this at the counter for you." Velena took it. Inside, a black wax stamp kit, no note. But she knew. It was Conrad's way of saying, "Make your mark." Literally, she ran her fingers over the metal stamp head. It was clean, weighty. When she pulled it out, she saw the letter carved in it. V, simple, strong, singular. She didn't cry. She didn't need to. This wasn't a scene. This was a homecoming, not to a place, to herself. The first month moved like breath on glass, slow, steady, visible only if you looked close. Velena tracked every order by hand. She didn't trust apps yet. She had a whiteboard in the back of the diner unit, with tallied marks and notes in sharp black marker, orders, reorders, delayed shipments, packaging errors, messages from buyers. She didn't color-code it. She didn't decorate it. She just wrote the truth. Every time an order came through, she whispered the first name out loud, sealed the box with precision, and let that woman go out into the world with something that had no noise, only meaning. The candles sold faster than expected. By day 12, the soft charcoal midnight nest scent had sold out. By day 18, a boutique in Detroit placed a bulk inquiry. They asked if she had a story behind the brand. She wrote it in one paragraph. "We were never made to prove we belonged. We were made to exist in quiet dignity, and that's enough. This brand isn't a rescue, it's a reflection." They said yes. 10 units. Net 30. No conditions. Velena didn't tell anyone how many times she almost talked herself out of growth. When the packaging arrived, slightly dented. When one supplier raised prices overnight. When her bank account dipped below what she once called a comfort line. She didn't post rants, didn't ask for sympathy. She paused, then moved again. Each night she walked 2 blocks in silence before bed. No music, no scrolling, just breath. That became her routine. Lorna noticed. "You walk like you're holding a secret," she said one night as Velena came back in, cheeks flushed from the cold. "I am," Velena replied. "And what's that?" Velena pulled her coat tighter. "That I'm doing something no one thinks I can, and I'm doing it well." Lorna handed her a folded dish towel. "Good. Just don't forget to rest. Even queens blink." By mid-February, Velena had filled over 300 orders. No paid ads, no influencer gimmicks, just word of mouth, one whisper at a time. She reinvested every dollar. She still didn't wear designer, still lived above the diner, still packed her own boxes. And then, someone from Gilded Touch reached out, a digital lifestyle magazine known for spotlighting low-volume, high-impact creators. The editor didn't send a form letter. She sent a voice note. I received your restoration box as a gift. I've never opened something that felt like it understood me before. That sounds dramatic. It's not. We'd like to do a feature. Nothing big, just something honest. Velena played it twice before replying. Her response was short. Yes. Thank you. The interview was done over email. No Zoom, no glam shoot. They asked for a photo. She sent one Lorna took on her phone, no makeup, in her packaging workspace, hands mid-wrap, hair tied back. When the feature dropped 2 weeks later, the orders quadrupled. Her sight glitched from the traffic. She sat in silence for nearly 5 minutes, just watching the loading wheel spin. She wasn't happy. She was anchored, because now she had proof that stillness didn't mean stagnation. But success has a strange way of inviting ghosts. That same week, a message landed in her business inbox from an assistant she knew too well. Subject: Event Collaboration Inquiry. The message was formal. It didn't name names, but it invited her to contribute branded table placements for a high-profile luxury fundraiser being hosted at the Worthington South Estate. Velena read it twice. The nerve. She closed the laptop. Didn't reply. Not immediately. Instead, she printed the email and brought it to the diner. She handed it to Conrad. He read it slowly, passed it back. "They want your grace," he said. "But not your name." Velena nodded. "If I say yes, I become a useful shadow. If I say no, I'm labeled unprofessional." Conrad stirred his coffee. "Or, you answer with your own terms." She leaned back. "What would that look like?" He shrugged. "A condition they don't expect." She wrote her reply that night. Calm, precise, clear. Noir Nest does not offer anonymous contributions. If featured, all products must carry our logo, brand story, and origin details as required by our public ethics policy. We wish you a beautiful event either way. She didn't expect a response, but one came the next day. Short, dismissive. "We've decided to move in another direction. Best of luck." She smiled, because they were still worried about direction. She already had hers. On her walk that night, she passed the corner store with the dusty display of plastic toys. And there, tucked between knockoff dolls and glitter pens, was the same model of pig bank. She paused, went inside, bought 2. The cashier looked at her like she was joking. She wasn't. Back in the unit, she placed one pig on her shelf next to her shipping tape and label rolls. The other, she wrapped it carefully, punched a hole through the top, slipped a card inside that read, "From pain, for purpose," and mailed it to herself. Because legacy isn't what others give you. It's what you prove, quietly, steadily, was already yours. The envelope arrived 2 days later. Velena knew what was inside. She had mailed it to herself on purpose. The second pig bank, boxed and tagged. Still, something about receiving it made her pause. She placed it on her desk, unopened. Not because she didn't want to see it, but because now she understood that not everything needed to be opened to have meaning. Sometimes, presence alone made the statement. That night, she worked late again, but not out of stress, out of rhythm. Her days now had structure. Early start, bulk packing in the afternoon, inventory checks, cocoa with Lorna, website updates, evening walks, message replies. Noir Nest was no longer a thought. It was real. The spreadsheet said so. The customer reviews said so. But more than anything, her breathing said so. It was steady now, unhurried. She no longer flinched when people from Luca's world appeared online or showed up in mutual circles. She didn't need revenge. She needed range. 3 nights later, a woman named Jordan tapped on the diner counter. Late 20s, gold hoops, heavy tote bag, energy like a radio signal. Velena looked up from her seat. "You're Velena, right?" the woman asked. Velena nodded cautiously. "I follow Noir Nest. I just moved back in town. My cousin said you used to work here. I saw your face in that Gilded Touch article." Velena raised a brow. "That was a soft feature." "Soft," Jordan said, smiling, "but loud in all the right ways." She opened her tote bag and pulled out one of Valina's signature candles. "I've been carrying this around for 3 weeks. Reminds me I'm not off track." "Just off their track." Valina blinked. She hadn't expected to be someone's compass. "I'm building something too," Jordan continued. "Would love to intern. Even just shadow you. No pay needed. I just want to see." Valina looked at her, not with doubt, with familiarity. She had been that girl. Not long ago, she gestured to the booth. "Sit. If you're serious, we start with questions." Jordan dropped into the seat like she belonged there. And in a way, she did. Over the next 2 weeks, Valina taught her what she knew. Not with lectures, with presence. They unpacked shipments, reviewed customer service messages, discussed packaging that communicated emotion without screaming price. Jordan asked smart questions. Valina gave quiet answers. One afternoon, after wrapping the last of a 45-unit order for a women's retreat in North Carolina, Jordan looked at her and said, "How do you know when something's finally working?" Valina didn't speak right away. She reached behind her desk, pulled out a small, warped envelope, the one with Conrad's original note. She handed it over. Jordan read it. "They mock people who earn differently. Doesn't mean you earned less." Jordan sat back, exhaling. Damn. Valina said nothing. She didn't need to, because working didn't mean viral. It meant rooted. The new space came from a former flower shop. Low rent, big windows, wooden floors, one back room, faded pink trim around the entry. Valina didn't paint it right away. She liked how the sun caught the edges. Conrad visited on her second day cleaning. He brought gloves and a bucket without being asked. They worked in silence for most of the afternoon. He cleared out the back room while she organized the front counter. By dusk, she sat on the floor, wiping her hands on her old shirt, looking around the half-finished studio. "This feels like something I should be scared of," she said. "Are you?" he asked. She shook her head. "I think I'm just used to being quiet out of survival, not quiet out of choice." Conrad leaned on the window frame. "Then this space should speak for you." She nodded slowly, then picked up her phone. She posted one photo, no caption, just the image of the studio corner, the pink trim, a shelf of candles, and a small framed card in the corner that read, "You're not difficult, you're detailed." Within an hour, the comments filled in. "I see myself in this, needed this today. Can I come visit?" This brand isn't a business. It's a mirror. Valina turned off her notifications. She didn't need noise to validate what was already clear. Later that night, she brewed tea for herself and Conrad. They sat on overturned crates in the middle of the space. Valina lifted her cup. To beginnings. He tapped his cup to hers. To dignity, without permission. They drank. No toasts, no applause. Just that steady presence she had come to know. And need, not for validation, but for vision. That week, she received another message. This one from someone she hadn't heard from since Christmas, Elena Worthington, Luca's cousin, the only member of that family who ever gave Valina more than a glance in passing. Her message was brief. "Valina, I saw your feature. I know this means little, but I always thought you were too good for the way he handled things. Quiet class wins in the end. Don't look back." Valina didn't reply. She didn't need to. The message wasn't an opening. It was a final page turning. Back at the studio, she framed the original Pigbank receipt note, hung it in the back room where she and Jordan worked. Below it, she added another card, her own words. "The world will try to shrink you for entering without their permission. Build anyway. Because some businesses are born from passion. But some, they're born from refusal." Valina unlocked the door to her studio on a Thursday morning, just before the street sweepers came through. The pink trim around the windows caught the sunrise softly. She liked how it didn't demand attention. It waited for it. The way she had. Inside, everything smelled faintly of packaging paper, warm wax, and coffee from the thermos she always brought in by 7:10 a.m. Jordan had already beaten her in. She was on the floor, unpacking a new shipment of linen bags, earbuds in, head bobbing to something only she could hear. When she saw Velena, she popped one out. Boxes came in early. Good, Velena said, walking past with a folder in hand. Means we're ahead again. We've been ahead since you stopped asking permission. Jordan grinned. Velena looked at her. Keep that energy. We've got 14 custom orders to prep before Friday. 14, Jordan echoed, pretending to fan her forehead. From who? Royalty. Private firm in Brooklyn. They're gifting our kits to board clients during their Women's Leadership Roundtable. Jordan blinked. Wait, our stuff's going to boardrooms now? Velena nodded. Women who sit at long tables and don't apologize for taking space. That's fire, Jordan whispered, then added, you know you're doing what you said you wanted to do, right? Like for real. Velena didn't answer right away. She looked around, the display shelves, the woven baskets, the stacks of shipping labels, the custom scent shelf with handwritten testing notes. Then the black wax stamp sitting near the register, marked simply with a 5th. She replied with what felt truer than anything else. I'm becoming what I said I wanted. Because building wasn't about checking off a list. It was about learning not to flinch when you finally got what you'd once begged for in silence. That afternoon, 2 women walked in during regular hours. Neither had appointments. They looked unsure. Mid-30s, pressed coats, heels too tall for comfort. Velena greeted them anyway. Come in, she said. You're welcome. They looked at each other. Then, the first one spoke. We read about your products online. We weren't sure if you allowed in-person shopping. I didn't used to, Velena said. But I do now. The second woman stepped forward, fingers trailing one of the sample boxes on the front table. Your candles smell like memory, like something familiar but softer. That's the point. They spent 20 minutes exploring. They didn't ask for discounts. They didn't mention where they worked or who they knew. They just existed and allowed her to exist without performance. At checkout, one said, your brand made me pause. No flashing lights, no shouting, just still. Velena smiled. Still can be strong. When they left, they each held a bag in one hand and something deeper. In the other, the quiet permission to be themselves without apology. Later that week, an unexpected name appeared in her inbox, Savoy and Sutton Interiors, a luxury staging firm known for working with high-end real estate showrooms. Their message was short but professional. We'd like to feature Noir Nest products in our seasonal residential display. Happy to offer co-branding. Let us know if you're interested. Velena read it twice. She remembered the way Luca once offhandedly mentioned Savoy's name during a board dinner. They cost too much but make penthouses look like they were born with money. And now, they wanted her scent line. She replied without flattery. We're open to conversation. We require all display features to include a shelf card outlining our origin, founder's name, and mission. No exceptions. They agreed by morning. Jordan nearly dropped her coffee when Velena told her, we're going into luxury staging now. Velena nodded. Yes, but on our terms. How many sets? 24. Custom labels, restoration sent only. They want the signature insert card too. Jordan paused. The one that says, this won't fix everything, but neither did hiding. Yes, that's my favorite line. It's mine too, Velena said. That weekend, they boxed every set with care. No rush, no shortcuts. Every card pressed, every ribbon straight. Velena wrote the address on the final shipment herself. When it left the studio, she stood at the window and whispered, go where I once wasn't allowed. Not with bitterness, with placement. She wasn't chasing access anymore. She was granting it. On Monday, a mother came into the store carrying a little girl no older than 5. The girl had soft braids and a plush rabbit. Her coat was too big. She kept blinking at everything. The mother looked tired, not disheveled, just stretched. Hi, she said. I was told I could ask about gift sets here. I don't have much, but someone said your grace box is good for. Velena stepped around the counter. What's your name? she asked the mother. Risa. And hers? Zania. Velena crouched and looked at the little girl. Zania, do you like soft things? The girl nodded slowly. Velena walked to the back shelf and pulled a box, one of the few remaining first-run originals. She returned, knelt again, and opened it right there. Linen cloth, a soft-scented candle, a card that read, "You are not too much." They were too little. She handed it to Zania. You get to open this with your mom whenever you want. It's not just a gift, it's a room of your own. The mother teared up. I can't pay for this. I didn't ask you to, Velena said. Because sometimes the richest transaction is giving back what you earned the hard way. Risa walked out carrying more than a box. She carried proof that Grace doesn't ask for proof. That night, Velena sat with Conrad on the studio floor. No lights, just candles. They drank warm tea, shared silence. I was asked to speak at a private panel, she said finally. He raised a brow. You going? I don't know. Why not? Because I built all of this for the women who don't get invited to those panels. Conrad nodded. Then go. Speak to the room like they're not used to being told the truth. Because they're not. Velena leaned back. I don't want a mic. You don't need one, he said. Your story walks in before you do. The panel was held in a loft overlooking the skyline. Exposed brick, velvet chairs, artisanal wine, curated to feel powerful without feeling corporate. Velena arrived early. No assistant, no entourage, just a slim leather folder and the card Conrad had given her the night before. Your story walks in before you do. She didn't wear designer. She wore neutral, a clean black blazer, fitted slacks, a soft cream blouse with no logos, no shine. The only accessory? A simple gold pin in the shape of a 5, stamped from her wax mold. Quiet, intentional, hers. She walked in with her head high, not out of pride, but readiness. Inside, the host panelists circled a low table, names that had gone viral, names that had married into power, names that often filled rooms like this because someone else cleared the way. Velena hadn't been cleared. She had carved. The coordinator spotted her. Velena Price? Yes. We're honored you accepted. Your segment will close the event. We want to end with something grounded. Velena nodded. Good. She didn't speak to fill air. She spoke when it meant something. By the time she took the stage, most guests had already posted their photos. Screens glowed with filters and flattering captions. Velena didn't touch the mic right away. She stood for a full 5 seconds, letting the quiet stretch. Then she said, I was once handed a piggy bank as a Christmas gift by someone who thought I'd forgotten where I came from. There were no gasps, only stillness. I hadn't forgotten. I'd just stopped accepting shame disguised as generosity. A pause. She glanced around. Some leaned in. Some froze. My brand started not with capital, but with insult. And that insult, like many of the ones women receive behind closed doors, became the seed for something steady. She went on for 5 minutes. No notes. She spoke of dignity, ownership, small beginnings, and how not all women rise by being louder. Some rise by not folding. By the end, no one clapped immediately. But when they did, it wasn't a performance. It was real. Backstage, someone waited for her. A woman with hard eyes and a clipboard. Miss Price. I represent Sutton Lux Holdings. Our client, Mr. Worthington, is expanding his public-facing initiatives and requested to send you an invite for... Velena raised a hand. I'm not interested. The woman blinked. I didn't finish. You didn't need to. The clipboard lowered slightly. He said you'd say that. Velena looked her directly in the eyes. Then he finally learned something. She walked past her, calm, unbothered, because power no longer meant being included. It meant declining with dignity. Back at the studio, a letter waited. Handwritten, no return address, but she recognized the script. Elena Worthington, Luca's cousin. Again. Velena opened it on the back steps, where the wind couldn't carry it away. You didn't just build a brand, You built a mirror, and some of us, quietly, are using it, whether we ever say it out loud or not. Velina folded the note. She didn't smile, but she felt steady. She slipped it into a small box, where she kept the most meaningful pieces of paper in her life. Her mother's last grocery list. The original pig bank receipt note. The first order printout from Noir Nest. A napkin with Conrad's early supplier sketch. And now, this, because growth wasn't always loud. 3 days later, a customer came in with her teenage daughter. They didn't browse. They came with purpose. She asked for your candle instead of prom heels, the mother said. Velina's breath caught slightly. The girl shrugged. I wanted something that would still mean something after the night ended. Velina walked to the shelf, picked the grace box herself, wrapped it carefully. No charge. Some things don't need a receipt to be real, she said. The girl's eyes watered. I'm going to start something too. I just don't know what yet. Velina handed her a blank card. On it, start even before you're sure. The girl nodded slowly. I will. That night, Velina stood in her studio alone. She didn't scroll. She didn't read. She didn't answer emails. She lit one candle, sat in the middle of the room, and whispered to herself, You're not visiting power. You've made a home in it. She looked around. No stage. But every item in that room held a truth louder than applause. And none of it, not 1 inch, had been handed to her. She had built it. Quietly, intentionally. And now, she didn't need to build more to prove it. She only had to continue. The day Conrad Vale lost his wife, the world didn't pause. The stock markets opened. The bakery 2 blocks down served its usual blueberry scones. A man on the subway sneezed twice and forgot to say excuse me. But for Conrad, everything stopped. Her name was Iris. She'd been a textile artist, not the kind with gallery shows or museum features, the kind who made beautiful things from scraps. Scarves from forgotten fabric, bags from upholstery samples, every stitch done by hand. She used to say, quiet work outlasts the noise. Conrad had believed her, still did. That's why he never rushed to speak, never chased legacy, never married again. Iris had been enough. They built a small business from their kitchen table in their early 30s. She designed, he structured. Eventually it grew, not into fame but into freedom. By the time they sold the company, she had already begun to fade. Breast cancer. Quick, brutal, final. He stayed quiet for 5 years after that, until the night he saw Velina walk into the diner, holding a piggy bank like it was heavier than the car she'd left behind. He remembered the moment clearly. She'd sat at the counter, like someone trying not to crumble. She didn't cry. She didn't flinch. She just folded the napkin carefully over her lipstick print and kept her head still, like even blinking might be too much movement. That stillness, it struck him. It wasn't submission. It was restraint. And Iris had once looked exactly like that, right before her first investor meeting, when they were laughed at for not having a pitch deck. Conrad had believed in Iris, not because she demanded attention, but because she earned it with presence. And Velina had that same presence, so he left the note. And then later, the check. Back in the present, Conrad stood in his quiet kitchen, holding a new delivery from Noir Nest. He didn't tell Velina he placed an order. He used a different name, Vale CR, and a private mailbox. He wasn't testing her. He was documenting her consistency. Inside the package was the writing kit, uncoated paper, ink pen, a card that read, Write your own terms. He ran his fingers over the edge of the envelope. Iris would have loved this, not because it was elegant, but because it was intentional. He sat down, opened the paper, and wrote 5 lines. You built grace into a system that rewards noise. You built space where there was no floor plan. You built it without begging. And you built it like a woman who has nothing to prove, but everything to place. He didn't sign it, didn't send it. He folded it, placed it in a drawer filled with letters Iris had written but never mailed. Because some words didn't need to be delivered. They just needed to be kept. The next afternoon, he walked into the studio unannounced. Jordan was at the counter, wrapping a bulk order. Velena was seated on the floor in the back, surrounded by shipping tape, labels and candle tins. She looked up and smiled. "You came early. You keep me curious," he said. She stood. "Want tea?" "Always." They sat near the back window, the one that faced the alley full of ivy vines and quiet light. He glanced around. "Still smells like Grace." "I changed the wax base," she said. "Made it a little warmer, less sharp." "It's working." They sipped in silence. Then she said, "Why did you help me?" He looked at her for a moment, thought about lying, or simplifying, then decided on the truth. "You reminded me of someone I respected more than anyone," he said. "And you didn't know it, but you were standing at the edge of something, and I couldn't watch that edge swallow someone again." She didn't speak, not because she didn't have words, but because she understood. He leaned forward slightly. "I didn't help you because I thought you were weak. I helped you because I saw strength that hadn't been named yet. And sometimes that's all a person needs, for someone to name it." She blinked slowly. "You never treated me like a project." "Because you're not." Velena nodded. "Thank you. You never owed me thanks," he replied. Then quieter, "But I like that you give them anyway." That night as he walked home, Conrad passed a bookstore he hadn't stepped into in years. In the window sat a journal display. One of them, leather-bound, hand-stitched, had a gold letter 5 embossed in the corner. He bought it, not to give to her, to remind himself that some letters don't stand for names. They stand for vindication, and that's what she'd built. 1 cent, 1 package, 1 box of dignity at a time. The setback arrived not with a bang, but with a notice, a small red flag on her vendor portal. She clicked. "Your product line has been flagged for potential branding conflict by an existing trademark holder. Pending investigation, your listing will be temporarily suspended." Velena froze. She read the message again. And again. Her scent line, Restoration Grace, the one carried in boutique shops, featured on her homepage. Loved by the women who wrote her with messages like "This feels like peace," was pulled. No warning, no contact. Just gone. Her hand gripped the mouse too tight. Jordan looked up from the shipping table. "Everything good?" Velena didn't answer. She clicked deeper into the vendor portal, looking for details. A company name finally surfaced. Lumina Lux Company. She'd never heard of them. They'd filed a motion 3 weeks earlier claiming brand conflict. Velena felt the heat rise in her chest. There was no chance this was coincidence. She clicked open the Lumina Lux website. Their products were glossy, flashy, layered in gold and excess. They now offered a candle set called Grace Restore. Same tones, same messaging. Noir Nest's entire aesthetic, mimicked, twisted. Jordan came to her side slowly. "What happened?" Velena's voice was quiet. "They copied it, then filed against me." "What?" Velena stood, suddenly needing air. The studio felt small, too full of things that had taken months to build and now hung in suspension. "I need a walk," she said. She didn't walk. She paced, around the block, down past the church, through the alley where ivy vines curled like quiet listeners. Her mind was loud. "They're bigger. They'll erase me. They'll spin it. They'll win." She stopped walking when she saw the diner lights. Lorna stood behind the counter, wiping it down. When she spotted Velena, she held up a mug. Velena shook her head. Instead, she stepped inside, sat at the counter without speaking. Lorna poured cocoa anyway. Velena held it, but didn't sip. "Something's wrong," Lorna said gently. Velena nodded. "Can I fix it?" "No," she whispered. "But I think I know who might help me not break." She found Conrad outside the brownstone, trimming the ivy near the steps. He didn't look surprised to see her. "Walk?" he asked. She nodded. They moved down the sidewalk together. No small talk, just quiet feet against cold pavement. At the next block, she handed him her phone with the email open. He read it carefully, twice, then handed it back. "I need to fight it," she said. "You should," he replied. "I don't have a legal team." "No," he said, "but you have clarity, and that's more dangerous than any firm with a retainer." She looked at him. "What do I do?" Conrad thought for a long moment, then said, "You remind them who originated the work. Quietly, not through lawyers, through presence, through record, through proof. I have all the design files." Velena whispered. "Time stamped. Use them. They have reach. You have root." They returned to the studio by 10 p.m. Velena didn't sleep. She built a digital archive page on her site, unlisted, not promoted. It held every draft of her original scent line, photographs, video clips of hand-pouring wax, notes in her handwriting, date-stamped logs. She titled it, "For the Record." No names mentioned, no accusation made, just history, undeniable, unshakable. The next morning, she sent the link in her reply to the vendor platform. "This archive includes the original development files and timestamps for the Restoration Grace line. I trust you'll use this for proper assessment." She didn't ask for apology. She asked for accuracy. It took 6 days. On the 7th, the message came. "Thank you for your detailed record. Your original listing has been restored. No further action required." Velena didn't cry. She didn't post a victory message. She walked into the studio, took one of her original boxes, placed a new card inside, and quietly wrote on it, "You tried. I outlasted." She sealed it, labeled it Personal Archive. Jordan cheered when she found out. "Yo, that's insane. You just stood there and made them back down." Velena smiled faintly. "I didn't stand. I reminded." Conrad returned that evening with 2 things, a bottle of still water and a framed piece of paper. He placed it on her desk. Velena looked down. It was her original napkin, scanned and preserved. The one from that first diner visit. The one that held his note. "They mock people who earn differently. Doesn't mean you earned less." She looked up. "You kept it." "Of course," he said. "It was the first time in years I saw my wife's strength in someone else." Velena's breath caught. "She never stopped building," he added, "even when someone else tried to claim her foundation." Velena touched the frame. "It's yours now," Conrad said. "No," she replied. "It's ours, because dignity, when honored, becomes a shared legacy." That weekend, she added a new line to Noir Nest's site. Under the About section, it read, "We've been copied, mocked, doubted, but never erased. Our origin isn't up for debate, because it lives in every box, every card, every cent. Our proof isn't in press, it's in presence." She didn't need revenge. She didn't need to sue. She needed to keep building. And she would. One quiet victory at a time. The invitation came on thick cream cardstock, hand-delivered, signed in ink. Embossed logo, "Women in Legacy, Building Power Quietly." Velena turned the card over twice before setting it down. There had been a time when something like this would have made her feel like she was finally being seen. Not anymore. Now, she read the names of the keynote speakers, stylists, executives, investors, and didn't wonder if she belonged. She wondered if she had time. Jordan looked over her shoulder. "You saying yes?" Velena didn't answer immediately. Then, "Yes." "Whoa." Jordan raised a brow. "Thought we weren't chasing panels." "We're not," Velena said. "But this isn't a chase. This is a statement." The event was scheduled for early spring. Velena chose her outfit 3 days before. It wasn't flashy. Tailored cream pants, a dove-grey top with soft lines, her hair pulled into a low bun. No jewelry except her V-shaped lapel pin, hand-cut in matte gold, the same one Jordan wore now too. Not because it was a trend, because it meant something. When they arrived at the venue, there was a table with name cards. A woman greeted Velena without looking up. "Brand name, please?" "Noir Nest," she replied. The woman scanned the list, found her name, then paused. She looked up. Oh, you're her. Velena said nothing. The woman straightened slightly. Welcome. You're speaking in segment 3. Velena took her card. She didn't need fanfare. She was already the moment. Backstage, the green room buzzed with nervous energy. Someone was adjusting ring lights for social media clips. Someone else rehearsed their pitch out loud. Velena sat near the back, alone, reading nothing, recording nothing, just breathing. A panelist approached, a woman in a fitted pantsuit with silver stilettos. You look familiar, she said. Were you featured on Gilded Touch? Velena nodded. Briefly. That brand of yours, something about nesting? People talk about it like it's poetry. Velena lifted her chin. It's not poetry. It's proof. The woman raised her brow. Well, that's different. It's earned. She said nothing more. Because she didn't come to network. She came to place weight on what others tried to minimize. When they called her name, the moderator paused. Please welcome a woman whose brand has never run ads, but somehow everyone feels seen by it. Velena Price of Noir Nest. There was light applause. Velena walked onto the stage. She didn't adjust the mic. She didn't smile wide. She began with a single sentence. I was once handed a piggy bank by a man who gave me a Rolls Royce and called it balance. A ripple through the room. That moment taught me something. Wealth without respect is decoration. Power without placement is noise. She let the silence hold. I didn't build my brand for applause. I built it because I couldn't find a product that understood how women like me live and recover. Quietly, daily, in rooms where we aren't the loudest, but we're always the foundation. Eyes locked on her. Some women nodded slowly. Others held their breath. Velena's voice stayed steady. Noir Nest isn't luxury. It's location. It's the place you return to when shame tries to rewrite your story. My packaging doesn't promise transformation. It offers recognition. And that is enough. When she finished, she didn't bow. She stepped back and let the room absorb it. After, someone followed her into the side hall. Young, nervous, breath uneven. Miss Price, she said. I don't mean to intrude, but... Velena turned gently. You're not. I bought your candle set last winter. I'd just left someone who made me feel like my silence meant I was weak. She reached into her bag, pulled out the original card insert. This won't fix everything, but neither did hiding. I kept this in my wallet, the girl whispered. It's creased now, but I read it every time I feel small again. Velena looked at her and said, quietly, You're not small. You were just in the wrong room. The girl wiped her eyes. Thank you for saying something that didn't sound perfect, just honest. Velena placed a hand on her shoulder. Honest is enough. That night, Velena skipped the after-event dinner. She went home. Jordan had left a note on the studio door. You owned that room without even raising your voice. I'm proud to be under your wing. Velena smiled faintly. She entered the studio and turned on one soft light. She didn't pour tea. She didn't journal. She simply walked to the archive shelf, opened the box with the pig bank, and held it in both hands. It didn't sting anymore. It grounded her. It reminded her that some gifts are meant to insult, but they become symbols of rebirth. And rebirth doesn't need a parade. It just needs a stage. And she had finally claimed hers. The clip hit social media before Velena even took off her shoes that night. A 15-second excerpt from her speech, captured on someone's phone, poorly lit, but undeniably powerful. Wealth without respect is decoration. Power without placement is noise. Within hours, it was everywhere. Fashion bloggers posted it with captions like, Finally, someone said it. Quiet lifestyle pages stitched it with candlelit workspace shots. Even a handful of business accounts reposted it, calling her the brand whisperer. Velena didn't react. She didn't repost it. She didn't even like the posts. She stayed in her lane. By morning, her inbox had 50 new inquiries. Some were real, wholesalers, boutique partners. Others were predictable. Fast brands wanting to collaborate or amplify her story with rebranded versions of her own work. Jordan walked into the studio, holding her phone like it was on fire. "You're trending. I'm tired." "You trended without trying. That's the best kind." Valina sipped her tea. "It's also the most dangerous." Jordan sat across from her. Because they'll want to package the story now, gloss it, market it. And once they do that, it's not mine anymore. It's theirs. Jordan's excitement slowed. "You're not wrong," she said quietly. "But you're also not going to shrink, right?" Valina looked at her. "No, I'm not shrinking. I'm selecting." Later that afternoon, an email arrived from Frontline magazine, an upscale editorial known for its minimalist covers, deep interviews, and famously never featuring the same type of founder twice. Subject, cover opportunity, Frontline April edition. Valina read the email in silence. It was short, to the point, and respectful. They wanted her, not her products. Her. She walked to the window of her studio. The wind brushed lightly against the glass, the same way it had the night she got her first order. She remembered how that felt. Quiet, safe, small in a good way. Now this was wide. She walked back to her desk, opened a fresh page in her notebook, and wrote a list what they can have. My name, my brand's message, my original quotes. What they can't touch, my tone, my values, my delivery, my silence. When she replied to Frontline, she said 3 things. "Yes, I'll accept. I will wear my own wardrobe. I will write my own pull quotes. And I will not speak for engagement. I'll speak for clarity." They agreed. All of it. No questions asked. 2 weeks later, the interview was held at her studio. No white backdrop. No fake props. Just her candle shelf, her work desk, and a stool with a woven throw draped over it. The reporter sat across from her, recorder in hand. "First question, you've avoided press for years. Why now?" Valina answered without flinching. "Because press isn't purpose. But when the press listens without asking you to dilute, it becomes a vessel. And I think women like me need vessels that don't leak." Second question, if you could write a headline about yourself, what would it say? Valina paused, then said, "She didn't climb, she built." The cover dropped 3 weeks later. Valina didn't post it, but others did. It wasn't flashy. Just her, seated at her desk, one hand resting lightly on a shipping box, the other holding a candle lid between her fingers. Her eyes met the camera directly. The quote, in small text at the bottom, "Still can be strong. Valina Price." That same weekend, she was invited to a luxury retail summit. All expenses paid, panel seat guaranteed, 4-figure speaking fee. Jordan danced around the studio when she saw the email. "This is major. This is like full circle." Valina skimmed the invite. Then she closed the laptop. "I'm not going." Jordan froze. "What?" "They want a soundbite," Valina said calmly. "They don't want a mirror." "You sure?" "I'm certain." Valina walked to the back room, opened a drawer, and pulled out the same blank card she gave young Zania. On it, she wrote, "Stay sacred. Don't sell the silence that saved you." She taped it to the wall beside her shipping labels. Jordan stood watching her. "Okay," she said finally, "you're not wrong. But still, what do we say to the women who do want to be loud, who want the stage?" Valina turned. "We say be loud if that's your language, but know when quiet is your armor, not your shame." That night, Conrad stopped by for cocoa and quiet. He brought her a photo, framed, printed in matte. It was Iris, sitting in her own workshop years ago, sleeves rolled, thread looped between, her fingers completely unaware the camera had caught her mid-focus. Valina touched the frame. "I didn't know you still kept this. I keep everything that reminds me where real begins." He handed it to her. "Put it somewhere you'll see it on the days people try to drag you out of your lane." Valina set it on her back shelf. right beside the pig bank, and the card from her first order. Now it was a timeline. Every object in the room whispered the same thing. You weren't given power. You took space. You placed your name. And you did it without noise. 1 year. That's how long it had been since she stood in the Worthington driveway. Fingers frozen. Pig bank in hand. Rolls-Royce behind her, and her dignity hanging by a thread. Now, the invite came in a wax-sealed envelope. No assistant. No assistant's assistant. The card was thick, heavy, navy blue with silver lettering. Worthington Family Holiday Gala, honoring philanthropy and emerging legacy. Below the title, her name was printed in raised script. Valina Price, founder, Noir Nest, no +1 required. No note about dress code. No small print. The message was clear. She wasn't being asked to attend. She was being acknowledged. Jordan read it 3 times. They really put your name in silver? Valina nodded. You going? Valina took her time before answering. Then, yes. Jordan's eyes widened. You sure? Yes. Why? Valina folded the envelope and placed it on her desk. Because I'm not going to prove anything. She looked up. I'm going to confirm everything. The night of the gala, the Worthington estate looked exactly as it had the year before, regal, manicured, gold-lit. Only this time, Valina didn't arrive in a staff vehicle. She arrived in a car she'd called herself, sleek, low profile, paid for with her own name on the title. She stepped out in a full-length black velvet gown, sleeves to the wrist, high neckline, no slit. Classic. Subtle, dangerous in how little it tried. Her hair was pulled back into a polished low bun. Her earrings were small gold studs, her mother's, and pinned to her clutch was the V-stamped lapel pin. She didn't wear Noir Nest to advertise. She wore it to center herself. Inside, music played softly from a live trio. Servers in pressed whites passed trays of champagne and hors d'oeuvres. The room swirled with names. Old money. Board members. Strategic wives. Valina walked through it all without flinching. She didn't scan for Luca. She didn't search for a place to stand. She made space where she paused. And within 10 minutes, someone noticed. Elena Worthington. A voice called. Valina turned. Elena approached with her usual sharp posture, softened just enough. You received the invitation. I did. You look. Elena hesitated, then smiled. You look exactly how I hoped you would. Valina gave her a nod. That makes one of us. They both let out small private laughs. Elena leaned in. He knows you're here. I'm aware. Are you not here for him? Elena's expression sobered. Good. Why now? Valina asked. Because this event used to be about image, Elena replied. Now I want it to mean something, and your name carries weight. Valina raised a brow. It didn't used to. No, Elena admitted. But the thing about quiet weight is, once it lands, it doesn't move. An hour passed. Valina stood near the back gallery hall, sipping water, watching. She wasn't trying to be seen, but she was unmissable. Her silence drew more attention than volume ever could. Then, finally, the moment arrived. She felt him before she saw him. Luca, approaching from across the room. Sharp suit, perfect posture, wife at his side, a woman wrapped in a gown meant to impress every lens in the room. He walked slowly, deliberately, stopped a few feet in front of her. His wife turned, glanced at Valina, then looked away. She didn't speak, neither did Valina. It was between them. Luca smiled faintly. Didn't expect you'd come. I know, Valina replied. He looked her up and down, then let his gaze fall to the pin on her clutch. Noir Nest is everywhere now. It's placed, she corrected, not pushed. He gave a single laugh. Still sharp. No, she said. Just steady now. There was a pause. He lowered his voice. Do you still have it? Valina tilted her head. The pig bank. She didn't smile. I started with it, she said. That's all you need to know. And then she turned. Not dramatically. Just completely. She walked away before he could say more, because there was nothing left, not for him, but for her. There was everything. She stepped out into the side courtyard. Cold, crisp, stars above. She stood near a small fountain and finally let her breath settle. A few seconds later, she heard footsteps, but not Luca's. Conrad. He stood beside her, no need for questions. "I figured you'd come," he said quietly. "Why?" "Because rooms like that used to make you invisible. And now?" He looked at her. "You built the room they're trying to redecorate." Velena let out a breath. They clapped, because they recognize presence. Even if they don't understand its cost. They stood in silence. Then Conrad added, "You've arrived." "No," Velena said, staring at the lights. "I returned. On my own terms." She returned to the ballroom with frost still in her hair. The lights inside didn't dazzle her anymore. They weren't awe-inspiring, they were ornamental. And tonight, she didn't come to be inspired. She came to be final. By the tall mirror near the back entrance, a woman in a velvet shawl glanced her way, then lowered her eyes respectfully. On her dress was a brooch, familiar, one of Velena's earliest custom pins, only made for a dozen silent donors. Another woman brushed past her. Older, she didn't say a word, but her fingers lightly grazed Velena's hand as she passed. A signal. They'd seen her speech, or heard about it. Or maybe they just saw how she carried herself now. It didn't matter. She had become what she was once mocked for pretending to be. Someone with presence. And presence, she learned, couldn't be borrowed. It had to be reclaimed. She walked toward the garden doors. The air inside was too still, too watchful. As she pushed open the glass pane, a voice behind her said, "Your brand will double in value before spring." She turned slightly. One of the younger investors, eager eyes, gold cufflinks, a name that had probably been whispered into too many rushed meetings. Velena's answer was quiet. "I didn't build it for resale." He laughed lightly, missing the point. "Everything has a number." She looked at him, not cruelly, but with a kind of cold he wasn't ready for. "Then you've never owned anything worth keeping." He didn't follow her outside. She stepped onto the stone path lined with lights, breathing in the crisp night air. The smell of pine and distant citrus from the cocktail bar lingered faintly. Beyond the hedges, the luxury shone, the cars, the marble entrance, the imported ice sculpture being wheeled in. But none of it touched her. She wasn't there for them. She was there for the ones who would come after. Back inside, Jordan approached with a soft expression. "I saw how he looked at you." "Kellen." He stood at the back like someone staring at a locked door. Velena exhaled slowly. "He put me behind one once. And now? Now, I don't even knock." They both smiled. Quietly, with the weight of women who knew what silence could protect. As Jordan moved to speak with someone near the gala staircase, Velena remained still. Watching, not searching. Across the room, her eyes met someone else's. Kaylin, no glitter, no camera-ready smile, just her in a black dress, sipping champagne, looking at Velena like a problem she hadn't solved. Velena didn't flinch. She didn't gloat. She simply turned and walked away. That was the new equation. She no longer needed to be seen winning. She just needed to stop playing on someone else's scoreboard. Back home that night, she lit one candle. She made tea. She turned on soft jazz from her old playlist, the one she used to hide because it wasn't brand-friendly. Then she opened the drawer in her small study, the one she used to avoid. Inside was the bank, still sealed, still full. She picked it up, held it, set it down, and beside it, she placed something new, a handwritten note. "Legacy isn't bought, it's worn." She folded the paper and tucked it under the bank. Then she turned out the light and slept peacefully. For the first time in years, Velena Price didn't rent the cabin to escape. She rented it because no one would expect her to be there. That was the difference. There was no need for new clothes, no disguise, no fake tears at the airport. She didn't run from the world Luca once owned. She stepped out of it. entirely. That Christmas morning, instead of opening gifts wrapped in Versace ribbons, she lit a small fire herself, poured coffee, set 2 plates, and opened the blinds to welcome the snow-covered forest like it was enough. And this time, it was. Conrad Vale's cabin sat on 30 acres of quiet land. No cameras, no assistants, no noise. Valena had been there 5 weeks. Every item in the pantry she stocked. Every sheet on the bed she laundered. Every meal she cooked, even if it was 2 boiled eggs and fruit. Because for the first time in years, her hands did more than decorate. They created. When she opened her laptop and looked at the screen, she didn't see news about Luca Worthington or the pig bank spectacle. She saw her business plan. Valena, studio, a space to refill, repair, and rebuild dignity. The pitch wasn't grand. The idea wasn't built for media. It wasn't about trends or virality. It was about stability for women like her, women who'd been used as ornaments, then discarded as liabilities. There'd be 6 core services: private counseling pods, trauma-informed design studios, self-rebuilding, retreats, financial literacy sessions, restorative cooking, and evening fireside story sessions. Lorna helped shape it. Conrad added structure. Valena? She finally believed it mattered. She opened her email. Another inquiry. This one wasn't from a donor or client. It was from someone named Jordan Elias, a small-town bank manager in North Carolina. We read about your plan in an independent women's finance forum. If you're willing, our branch would like to host a local reset weekend for women in hardship. We can cover your travel, lodging, and fees. Just let us know. Merry Christmas. Valena read the message 3 times. She didn't know how that forum found her. She hadn't posted about the plan publicly. She'd sent the proposal to 5 people. Lorna, a quiet non-profit in Detroit. Her sister Cambria, her therapist, and one retired CEO. Conrad. Apparently, one of them had quietly believed in it enough to share. She pressed reply. Yes, I'd be honored to help. She stared at the screen for a moment before closing the lid. She didn't need Luca's last name. She didn't need Worthington's empire. She had her own, and this one, healed. Outside, a gentle knock at the door startled her. She slipped into boots and opened it slowly. Conrad stood there, taller than usual, holding 2 wood bundles and a bag of pine cones. I thought you might need these, he said plainly. No power outage. Just better fire crackle. She stepped aside and let him in. Thanks. Conrad had become part of her routine. He never intruded, never stayed past sunset, but every 3 days or so, he stopped by with something useful. Yesterday, it was fresh nutmeg. Before that, fresh towels and a note that said, people can survive without 10,000 thread count sheets, but soft ones help. They sat across from each other, as usual. 2 mugs, 1 fire, no pretense. You opened the blinds today, Conrad said. She looked at him, amused. You count my windows? I count signals, he said. You didn't use to face the light. She nodded. It stopped feeling like a spotlight, started feeling like morning again. He gave a slight smile. Then you're healing. Later that evening, Valena opened a small wooden box she kept on the cabin's side table. Inside it were 3 things. 1. The 3 pig bank. 2. A folded photo of herself, before the Worthington era. 3. A card with the words, for what's next. She hadn't thrown away the pig bank, not because she valued it, but because it reminded her what disrespect felt like. So she'd never repeat it. Not toward herself, not toward anyone else. She took out her notebook and flipped to the back page. It read, expansion, no. Depth, yes. She crossed it out and wrote a new line underneath. Healing isn't expansion, it's restoration. A single light snowflake tapped the window. She didn't flinch. She watched it fall. The wind shifted, but this time, her spine didn't. Conrad returned at 7:14 p.m. with fresh bread and a folded letter. This came for you, he said, placing the envelope on the table. Mailed to my property, but addressed to you. Velina opened it slowly. It wasn't from Luca. It was from the lawyer representing Worthington Group. A single sentence. You are no longer under binding agreement or gag order. Worthington has been advised to cease public commentary or exploitation of your name, image, or former likeness. No apology, no acknowledgement, just a signed release. She folded the letter and placed it next to the pig bank. You okay? Conrad asked. Velina stood, unbothered. I think I'm better than okay. And that night, for the first time in years, she slept in silence, not absence, because silence meant peace. The train ride back to her apartment that evening was silent, not because Velina couldn't speak, but because she had no one left to call. Her hand clutched the thin envelope in her coat pocket. The paper felt expensive, thick, smelled faintly of leather and power. Inside were 5 crisp $1,000 bills, and a note in Luca's handwriting, in case you want something real to show for the holidays. There was no apology, no kindness, just proof he still saw her as a thing to dispose of quietly. When she reached her floor, she didn't go in. She walked up one more flight to the building's rooftop. The wind was bitter up there, but it cleared her head. She sat on the bench, looking down at the glowing city, and slowly tore the bills in half, one by one, until they floated into the air like ash. She folded the note and tucked it into the only place that felt right, the back of her old recipe book. Then she climbed back down to her real life. Across the city, Conrad Vale watched an old rerun of a holiday special with his sister's kids asleep on his couch. The phone buzzed once. He picked it up and read the short message. Didn't take the money. Not sure what comes next. But I didn't take it. He smiled quietly to himself, not because he expected anything from her, but because dignity like that meant she still had fight left. And fight was all anyone needed to rebuild. The next day, Velina was at the diner before sunrise. Lorna was already behind the counter, squeezing oranges. Thought you might show up, Lorna said without turning. Coffee's brewing. Specials are up. Velina tied her apron. Good. I don't feel like talking today. I feel like earning. Lorna smirked. Then you'll feel right at home. The day passed with customers, with dishes, with quiet moments at the register, and food delivered hot and fast. It didn't erase the past, but it didn't owe anything to it either. That afternoon, she walked to the postal shop and handed over a small parcel. Inside it, a neatly rewrapped box. The same piggy bank. The same note from Luca. She paid for priority shipping, addressed it to his penthouse. When the clerk asked if she wanted insurance on the package, she smiled lightly. It's not worth anything. That night, she met Conrad outside a small, half-lit building with an iron gate. He unlocked it and motioned for her to follow. Welcome to your next maybe, he said. Inside was a quiet storefront, empty but clean. Wooden shelves. A back kitchen. No name yet. No expectations. I bought this a few months ago. No plan. Just felt right. Now, it feels more right if it's yours. Velina looked around. The silence wasn't haunting like the Worthington house. It was open, waiting, honest. Why me? She asked. Because you didn't take the money, he said. And because when you made the tea that day, it tasted like someone who still knew how to give. She stared at the empty space, her mind beginning to rebuild. At the Worthington estate, the pig bank arrived 3 days later. Luca's assistant handed it to him in a leather tray. He read the folded note. Real money doesn't buy back fake love. Keep your shame in it. He didn't say anything. He placed the bank back in the box, walked over to his fireplace, and dropped the whole package in. It didn't burn quickly, but it burned, and the smell was unmistakable. Melted plastic, regret, and something gone that couldn't be replaced. Some gifts are too expensive to keep. Some people walk away and don't need to slam the door, because quiet strength is louder than luxury. If you believe real dignity has no price tag, like share, subscribe, and join us as we finish Velina's final walk toward power in Chapter 10. The softest victories echo loudest when no one is watching. Velina didn't post about it, didn't forward the deed to friends, no press release, no grand caption. She simply unlocked the shop door at 7:45 a.m. one Friday morning, 2 days before Christmas Eve. A brushed bronze plaque beside the entrance read, "Velina, tea, mercy, fire." Inside, sunlight filtered through the tall windows. The wooden floors held warmth from the radiator coils beneath. Quiet jazz played from a speaker tucked between books of recipes and pressed flower arrangements. Everything smelled like chai and clove and confidence. Conrad had helped her set up the utilities. Lorna had contributed old teacups. The rest, layout, style, tone, Velina built herself. She painted the back wall with soft forest green, added a corkboard for anonymous letters, and wrote 3 words in white chalk on the mirror near the register, "Come in whole." By 8:02 a.m., the first person walked in. A woman with a tired face and 2 toddlers. She didn't ask questions. She didn't check prices. She sat down and whispered, "Can I sit a while?" without ordering. Velina nodded. "I'll bring you something warm." Across town, Luca Worthington sat inside his penthouse, where the silence felt heavier than the walls. The news had picked up that he'd cancelled the Aspen trip with Madeline. The boardroom whispers were growing. Investors didn't like uncertainty. He stared at the glass box on his table. A replacement pig bank sat inside it. The original had melted into smoke, but something in him kept reaching backward. For once, he didn't know how to buy his way out. By noon, Velina had served 7 customers. 2 of them cried. One left a card that simply said, "You made me feel human today." She didn't collect compliments. She collected proof that she wasn't erased, that what they tried to discard had rebuilt itself. Conrad stopped by briefly, dropping off some ingredients. "You didn't charge that lady with the kids," he noted. "No. You might lose money." "I might. Or I might make room for people who remember it tomorrow." He tilted his head with a quiet smile. "That's a better kind of wealth." Later that evening, Velina stepped outside with a stack of paper lanterns. She clipped one above the door, then paused as she heard footsteps. Luca, same suit, same sharp-cut jaw, but his walk was slower, less commanding, as if gravity now belonged to someone else. She didn't flinch, didn't speak. He reached the door, paused under the lantern glow, and glanced past her into the tea room. "You named it after yourself," he said. "No," she replied. "I named it after what I survived." He reached into his coat and pulled out another envelope. She didn't look at it. "I came to say something," he began. "Then say it without money," she said. Silence. He placed the envelope on the bench beside the door and stepped back. "I didn't know how small I was until you stopped looking at me like I was big," he said. Velina's face remained still. Calm. No gloating. No pity. He looked down at the sign again. "Tea. Mercy. Fire. Which one's for me?" he asked. She finally answered. "Depends on the day." He nodded. "Merry Christmas, Velina." And he walked away. She didn't open the envelope. She lit the lantern, then went back inside, where another customer waited. Someone ready, to be seen without noise, without branding, without being bought. Velina brought her a cup of hibiscus and sat nearby. Her quiet mattered more now than applause ever did. By morning, the word had quietly spread, not on gossip blogs, not through paparazzi, but through whispers in local groups, silent nods at park benches, and soft glances between strangers holding cups with Velina stamped on the sleeve. She wasn't the story. The space was, and the people walking in weren't after tea. They were after something that no longer existed in Luca's world, being seen without being sold. That Saturday, as snow dusted the sidewalks and holiday lights blinked across store windows, Velina leaned over the counter, helping an elderly man write a note for the memory board. He asked, "Do I need to sign my name?" She shook her head. "Only if you want to." He pinned the card up. "I thought my time to start over was done. Thank you for proving me wrong." She smiled. That's when the door opened again, and this time a woman walked in. Not Madeline, not one of Luca's usuals, but a woman in her mid-30s, sharply dressed, eyes clear, steps steady. She carried no bag, no phone, just silence. She approached the counter and placed a single pink envelope down. "I'm not here to beg," the woman said, "and I'm not asking you to take me down." Velena raised her brows slightly. "I left him," the woman said, "on purpose." Quietly, now Velena knew who she was. Luca's ex-fiancé, the one who had laughed with champagne while Velena stood humiliated. Now she looked emptied. "I saw what you built," she said, "and I thought, maybe you'd let me sit down." Velena didn't move for a moment. Then she gently nodded toward a corner table. "Seats are open. Dignity doesn't need credentials." The woman's eyes welled up, but she walked without a word, sat down, and stared at her own hands. Velena brought her a small pot of white tea and walked away. She wasn't there to punish. That's what Luca never understood. Quiet justice wasn't about vengeance. It was about refusal. Refusing to stay where you were stepped on. Refusing to believe power only came through noise. Later that evening, Conrad returned. He placed 2 fresh wreaths on the front door, then pulled out a box from his truck. Found this while clearing out the cabin closet. She opened it. Inside, her old journal, the one she had scribbled in during those first dark days after the pig bank. After being erased, he looked at her. "Keep it." She hesitated, then placed it on a high shelf. "I might need to remember," she said. "Not to reopen the wound, but to remind myself how deep it healed." At 8:45 p.m., she closed the shop early. Lights dimmed, floors swept, music off. But before she locked up, she walked to the mirror and wiped off the words from earlier. Then rewrote, "You weren't fragile. You were just breaking out of what tried to contain you." She stepped outside into the quiet snow, looked up at the dark sky where no spotlight followed her, and she smiled. She wasn't the joke. She was the one they'd remember. If you've ever been underestimated, if someone tried to mock your worth, define your story, or strip you of your dignity, then this story is for you. Because real power doesn't need to shout. It rises in silence. It builds in quiet places, and one day it walks back in. Not to prove anything, but simply to show they were wrong. Velena didn't take revenge. She took back her peace. And in doing so, she left behind a blueprint for anyone who's ever been humiliated and told to shrink. So, if you believe quiet strength rewrites everything, subscribe to Mr. Charles' Stories, comment where you're watching from, and share this with someone who needs a reminder. You don't have to shout to be powerful. Sometimes, dignity is the loudest answer.